Today we are painting this jellyfish for a workshop that I'll be teaching. The first thing we have to do is to identify the values in this painting. So the way I do that is I print out a black and white photocopy of the actual picture, and this is a photo from Pixabay, I believe, and it identifies where all the lights, the highlights, and the darks are in the painting. Then I will transfer this to my watercolor paper, which has been all taped off here. The next thing we'll do is to identify the colors that we'll be using. This is a simple palette for my beginners. This is ultramarine blue. To make this darker purpley or blue down here, we'll mix the ultramarine blue with quinacridone red to get this nice violet color. To get the this nice yellowish orangish kind of color, we'll mix PY 154, and that's a mid-range yellow, and the quinacridone red to get this nice soft orange color. To get this dark in here, we could either use burnt sienna or we could make our own dark with the same three colors. To get the gray that's in here, that's in the shadows in here, we'll take that purple that we mixed and we'll mix it with the yellow, and that'll give us a beautiful gray because they are complements, so they neutralize each other. And so that's the simple color palette for this painting. Okay, in order to transfer this to our paper, we use graphite paper, and I normally use either a stylus like this that has a little ball on the tip, or a pen. If you use a red pen, you can see where you've been and you won't retrace your steps. So we'll use the red pen here. And the simplest way to do it is to just start tracing anything that you want to be in your painting. We'll do all these little wiggly things first. Not too hard of a pressure, because your graphite paper will make very dark marks, which will be very hard to get rid of. So try to do those softly. See under here, that's what your paper should look like. Soft marks. I don't even know if you can see that on the camera. They're very soft. So we'll go around and we'll just trace all of these. And you don't have to, you know that these will be thicker, so as long as you get where they are, that's the important thing. Just take it all the way down here, and that way you'll know where you've been. And I mark out the darker areas softly. If it's a thick line, I will put 2 lines on it. These are just the darks here. The outline, of course, of the entire and we'll just do this until you have all the significant markings. That highlighted area is important, like that. Any shapes that you see, try to get those in there. You've got a soft shape here. This is an important shape right here. It's these shapes that give it realism. So it's real important to get all of those in there, as many as you can in there. follow them all the way down. So I'll take a photograph of this when it's done so you can see exactly what it should look like. So the important thing you want here is this shape, because that's where your lightest lights and your darkest darks are going to meet. So you want to be sure and have this defined. All these little, these things are not so critical. As long as you get some in there, they don't have to be precisely in this place. As long as you got them curling all around. These are the tendrils. They're just kind of loose in here. You don't need every one of them. But this edge right here, you want this to be darker, so make sure that you make this nice and dark, like I'm doing here, so you can see this outline. Anytime you have a dark area like this, you can be more strong with your outline, because it's not going to show against the dark. The dark's going to eat up the line anyway. So, but you really want to get these parts of the structure where you know where they are. And also, if you noticed, I've taped down my tracing very well so that I don't lose it, so that I can look here and find what I'm doing here. So this is going to be the outline that's going to be really important, that, and this one up here, of course. So make sure you can see where the definite lines for this particular outline is. Then you can come in here with as many of these as you would like and just put them wherever they go, wherever you see them. There are a bunch of them that get together here. Take them all the way down. Just so you have some nice variation here. Be sure you got this well defined. And some of these little parts like this are important, these little odd shapes. Great. So that's kind of what we're looking at right there. We need to define where this stops. So let's just make a shape here, under this kind of umbrella shape, to pretty much know where the darks are going to start. Up in here and in here. This is all dark. And this comes all the way out here, so kind of do yourself a light umbrella there, so you know that that part of the jellyfish comes on down here, and these start, then the tendrils start. And they go in all different directions, as you can see. So this is your stem right here. I guess it's not a stem, but it looks like a stem. So be sure you get that defined. And these all the way down here. Just so you know where he stops and the water starts. Okay, that's probably enough definition there. So as long as you can see the outline of this right here. Make sure you have that defined. Darker. So you can just go over it multiple times until you get it dark enough. till you can see where the actual stem is coming in here. We'll call it a stem. And on this side, make sure you see where that is. It's really important. We keep that defined. This. Okay, and I know that looks really messy, but basically that is what you want it to look like. And you can add as many of these lines as you would like when we do the masking, so we will do that shortly. So let me take a photograph of this. So when we're using masking fluid, and this is masking fluid, this is one type, this is PBO, it's one type of masking fluid. When we're using it, I don't leave the bottle open. This is a latex product, and therefore it dries and turns into like a gummy kind of latex. So I put my masking fluid in a small container like this. I use a stylus, which I will provide for you. And basically we're just going to outline and a stylus has two ends. It has a fat ball and a smaller one. So I use the fat ball for the heavier lines, for defining some of these areas that I want to be a little more pronounced. And then I use the small edge, or the small ball, for finer lines. And you can soften these when we take the masking fluid off. I'll show you how to soften all of this so it won't be so pronounced. I'm not going to do the dark lines because we know that those are there, but we are going to do all of these because this is going on a very dark background. So we want to be sure that we define the edges here like we talked about. So we're going to make an edge, and then we'll soften it. Let's define this area right here. And you have to keep dipping in here, obviously, because this doesn't hold much in the way of masking fluid. So I'm just trying to get these major indicators here so I know where the structure of the jellyfish is. So we'll take it on down here and off the page and bring it back up on the page here. I'm showing you this because my students struggle with masking fluid, so it's just easier to show you how to do it. Some of these lines are thick and some are thin. Just try to get them as smooth as you can. Let's define some of these markers that are important. This pretty little shape right here. Anything that stands out that looks like you need to define it and not lose it, because once you start putting the paint on, then you have the possibility of losing a lot of these which is why I like to mask them out. Let's get this line very well defined here. So that's the other edge of the white right here. Comes on down here like that. Then this actually flows here like that. We've got some more area, and it, you know, you don't have to be exact with this. It's not gonna ruin your painting if it's not exact, but it's nice to try to do as much as you can, as accurately as you can, to give the realism. There's a separation between that, where the blue is in between here. So we need to find out where that is, and that is right in here. This area right here. It's going to be blue. Let's try to define where this is coming a little bit lower down here. A bit of this comes down there, back up. This is the most tedious part of doing this, but trust me, it will make your life so much easier once you get this all in there. You can just, the whole process of painting becomes much easier. I just want these edges that get lighter up in here, kind of show where this goes. I do take time masking because it saves me time painting. Now there's a blue spot right there, so we want to define that. There's also blue in here. Try to use the point, because the bigger the masking fluid line is, the harder it is to soften. And if you get a blob like that, just smooth it out. It's easier to kind of follow the pattern. Or you can just do all the ones at the top and then come down and do the other ones that you see. So basically just going over the lines that you've already created. Just make sure they connect, the tendrils connect to each other. That's the important thing. That's why it's easier just to start at the top. Take it off the page. This is just another jellyfish that's over this one. When you're using masking fluid, it's really best to start from the top and work your way down so you don't end up putting your arm in it. I'm just used to working with it, so I know how to avoid that most of the time. And I like to use the colored masking because you can see where you've been easier. It's the same thing as using the red pencil. This does require a lot of concentration. And this is quite a busy subject, but it should be fairly easy to paint. You can also see very easily where you've been too, which I really like. This is a shadow line here, but we know that's what that's for. That's the shadow there. And because these are going to be darker or a different color, anything you miss you can put in. So don't worry too much about missing. It's just easier if you get it as much in as possible, so you don't have to keep fooling with it. This makes a much finer line than a brush, which is why I don't use masking fluid with a brush. For one thing, it'll ruin your brushes. At least latex masking will ruin your brushes. Let's take this one off the page. We're going to take all of these off the page, actually. And I'm using the small ball. Just making some interesting lines. It's kind of like doing tree branches. It's a very similar process. Just trying to make sure that everything connects to something. And if your ball gets collects some masking fluid on it, just wipe it off. You may not want as many tendrils as this, and that's fine. Just do what you want. So I'm going to finish this up, and then I will take a photograph of this